Hello, today I'll be going over one of my favourite Historic Brawl decks built around Unesh, Criosphinx Sovereign as our commander. I'll quickly go over our game plan as well as some key cards and card categories. I won't go over each individual card, but the deck list is linked in the description if you want to take a closer look. So our commander is a 4/4 flying Sphinx that says Sphinx spells we cast cost 2 less to cast. When a Sphinx we control enters the battlefield, we get a slightly nerfed fact or fiction, where we reveal the top 4 cards of our library rather than 5. Our opponent separates them into 2 piles. We choose one pile to put into our hand and the other goes to our graveyard. So we want to ramp into Unesh and then storm off, amassing an army of flyers and generating some pretty crazy card advantage. When Historic Brawl was still 60 cards, this deck almost exclusively won with Thassa's Oracle, but I found that wasn't really happening once we got the 100 card Historic Brawl format, so I swapped that out for something more useful. I've separated the cards into different categories. So first we have our ramp category, with a mix of ramp artifacts and creatures, as well as cards that discount our spells, like Warden of Evos Isle, we've got Herald's Horn, Immortal Sun, those kind of cards. The Sun will also shut off Planeswalkers. We're only running one Planeswalker in Kiora, which is also another ramp card of ours, so it doesn't really impact us too much. Then at the top end of this category we do have Omniscience. Since we're running a lot of ramp to get up to Unesh mana as fast as possible, there's a good chance that we can cast Omniscience and basically play our entire deck with all of the card advantage that Unesh generates. The next part we have is our interaction, with a few counter spells and bounce effects to slow down our opponent and protect our board. One card to note is Leyline of Anticipation, which lets us play all of our cards at instant speed. This is a nice way to make holding up interaction in our opponent's turn easier, as well as allowing our creatures to dodge sorcery speed removal for a turn by playing them in the opponent's end step. The next category is card selection and card advantage. Not too much of this is needed, as Unesh makes all of our Sphinxes fill this role, so I've only included Jacob Hawken and Search for Azcanta as ways to smooth out our draws in the early game and make sure we can get to our late game as soon as possible. Seagate Restoration is also here as a possible land or big draw spell. So then the next pile is all of our Sphinxes, including quite a few changelings and clones that can count as Sphinxes. One key card here is Spark Double, which won't be discounted by Unesh, but can copy Unesh to make all of our Sphinxes cost 4 less generic mana to cast, and give us even more card advantage. Then most of our other Sphinxes aren't anything too special until we hit the 6 drops, where we have Dream Eater to bounce an opponent's non-land permanent, Riddle Master to bounce a creature, and Scholar of the Lost Trove to cast an instant or sorcery or artifact spell from our graveyard for free. So that could be one of our higher value artifacts, like an Immortal Sun, for instance. Maybe it could be some interaction, maybe like a commit or something. Seagate Restoration is also a nice one, but preferably we want to go for a Time Warp, which is one of our 2 extra turn cards along with Aaron's Epiphany. Epiphany does exile itself when cast, so we can't play that more than once, unfortunately. Then for non-basic lands, we have Castle Vantress to scry. We've got Hall of the Storm Giants as a good creature land against control. We've got Lonely Sandbar to cycle for 1 if we're land flooded. We've got Mystic Sanctuary to get back a high impact instant or sorcery, which usually wants to be Time Warp. Blast Zone is a bit of extra removal. Field of Ruin to take out an opposing non-basic, and most importantly, Reliquary Tower to give us no maximum hand size, which is often very relevant with the amount of cards Unesh puts into our hand. Alright, so that's the deck. Now let's see how it runs. Okay, so we're against the first sliver. Lady Mirror is a very nice ramper. Hopefully they don't have removal for it. But yeah, I think this is a keep. Would be nice to have a turn 2 ramp. At least Borrower might be able to deal with the ramping sliver, hopefully. But it depends. I suppose also it could be the one that just cascades into like, what is it? Tybalt's Trickery, and then they get a Cultivator Colossus that's huge. Nope, okay, they're not doing that. Can't bounce that, unfortunately. But we can just play our Palladium Mirror. So if they don't mess with that, next turn we could play Unesh. If they do mess with that, we could go Solemn. It would be nice to be able to bounce it. So I can either play Unesh, or I could bounce, because if I don't bounce, there's a good chance they play the first sliver next turn. So if I went land plus 2 for that, that leaves 4, so I could play either Kiora or Solemn. Kiora could untap Mir. Is there a way to make that work? So tap that for Kiora plus 2 more, play her, untap. Then we have 4 mana, so then I could go... that doesn't let me do anything extra. Okay. But yeah, I think I like getting Kiora down. So if I'm not using the Palladium Mirror, then I guess I just conjure the Kraken into hand.
Even monsters stop
Then if these two stick around next turn, obviously Kiora untapping the Mirror can give us, make it give us an extra 2. They go for a Relic, unkicked. Okay, so we've not really got a way to mess with them other than playing Epiphany for 7. This can make 4, 8. Yeah, so it'd be like Epiphany plus Kraken Hatchling, which just seems bad. But we can do... Oh. Untap the Mirror.
I guide primal.
Tap it again. Gets us Unesh. And we go from there. So... Glasspool Mimic or those other 3. So the Mimic isn't actually that good unless we've got out Spark Double, because it will just die from copying Unesh. So I think I want the other 3, and I don't think I've played a land this turn, so that works out fine. I'll lead with the Pretender. I'm not going to play land yet, just in case we get the Reliquary Tower, so that we have no maximum hand size. Usually want to hold off on playing lands until you absolutely have to. So we either get these 3 or the Obelisk. So we're not bothered about lands anymore. So I could play my land, that would give me 2 mana, which would let me... I could like play the Signet, or... Yeah, that's about it. I suppose Foretell Epiphany is fine. I think I do get the Obelisk, because we currently don't have an answer to anything they play. Oh, and that's GG. Alright, take long enough to make your decisions and they'll just leave. Okay, so we're on the draw against Edgar. Could be more of a sacrifice deck, could be more of a Vampire Tribal. On the draw, we do have a Search for Azcanta, which can kind of try and help us hit more lands. It's not the greatest. Kiora's obviously decent ramp, but for only 2 lands, I think this is a mulligan. I think this is better than going to 6. Not sure if this is any better than the last hand, to be honest, but we can get to Palladium Mirror, could be. Maybe we can use the Fading Hope for the Scry Knight is a good target for that. So I'm not too bothered about bouncing Knight straight away, so I think I'm going to play a tapped Restoration. The next turn we can hold up Fading Hope in theirs if they activate. Okay, change plan. I'll go for a Mind Stone then. Doesn't let us play Fading Hope because it makes colourless mana, unfortunately. So next turn we'll have 4 mana, so then we can go Palladium Mirror plus Fading Hope, and they didn't get their land to activate the Knight, so that's nice. Okay, so Island. Now we could go... No, we can't. We can't go Midnight Clock plus Palladium Mirror. And Palladium Mirror's a better play. It's weaker to removal, but without another land in hand at the moment, Midnight Clock wouldn't guarantee Unesh next turn anyway, so I think I'll risk it for the Palladium Mirror. Could also bounce it back to our own hand. Not huge on that, since obviously it's going to come back in with Summoning Sickness and we've got to spend the mana, so we shall see. Just attacks with those two. Could bounce one of them. I don't think they've got the land for the Knight, otherwise I think they'd have played it and attacked. So I could see bouncing the Vampire. They're all vampires. The Oathsworn, since it comes in tapped. So we'll go with no blocks and bounce that. And that way we're stopping the Knight of the Ebon Legion from growing. I think at this point I bottom heart. We're looking for land, really. Or something high impact. Oh, they did have the land, but it's a tap one. Ooh, Spark Double is very nice. This will use all our mana. If we can find land, then we get our Faceless Agent. There's a good chance we get a land here, so seems like a fine play. Good chance this, unfortunately, that Unesh gets removed. But we do also find a Mistwalker. It's another good one that we can play for 1 mana thanks to the discount from Unesh. And yeah, if Unesh sticks around and we can Spark Double it, we're laughing. So, okay, so they're giving us Mistwalker on 1 or lands. I think I'd rather get the lands and get the Faceless Agent in play. Which will seek us a Sphinx as well as triggering Unesh. Okay, we don't need the lands anymore, so I'll take the Kinseekers. And a Rescuer. Can be very nice if we can find a Mox Amber. Can also pick up the Faceless Agent to replay it for 1 mana again. Pretty nice. Don't think we need the Midnight Clock anymore, so I think I'm binning that. Worry Disruption could be nice to hold up at some point. So if they just play Edgar, they've not got any extra mana, so we've got good blocks. Cool. So I think we kick things off with Spark Double, since that gives us a further 2 discount on our Sphinxes. Sphinxes? Sphincters? That will leave us with 4 mana currently. Lotus or... so we don't really need lands. Lotus would be a nice play, since you can get up to some very high devotion. Would like to find some sort of either protective spell or... okay, Immortal Sun versus those 3. Probably the Sun. These aren't very high impact. Herald's Horn, I think we've probably discounted almost all of our Sphinxes to the point where the discount won't be that big anyway, so... Right, so we didn't hit anything too useful. Not sure about returning Faceless Agent to hand now. Dream Eater would be a nice play to do in their turn. So I suppose I could go... Although, yeah, I do want to play the Lotus. Alright, I think I go Lotus this turn. Now we don't have to discard either. Do I want to attack? I think I'd rather keep good blocks at the moment, because if we can stick around this kind of board state, we're fine. You need to remember they have a Hive. I do have a few things that kind of interact with my graveyard. Twilight Prophet's pretty strong. Not a huge flyer, but draining us is pretty good for them. Okay, so we can start with a 0 cost Bloodline Pretender. Oh yeah, the Faceless Agent will be 0 cost as well. So Sphinx. So if we can find like an extra turn, yeah, I can see an Alrund's Epiphany there. That's probably enough to win the game alongside playing a bunch of other Sphinxes. Yeah, I'll have that, thank you. Cloud Reader versus a bunch more lands. We should get a land at some point, so I think just the Cloud Reader's fine. Okay, next up, I think Rescue a Sphinx, get back Faceless Agent. See a Glasspool Mimic, which could copy this Unesh. Since this one's not legendary, it would dodge the legendary rule. Wash away, or would probably actually no. I should take wash away. That could have been a situation to take a land. So now I'm going to want the Borrower. So we could return the Prophet to... Oh. Okay, I'll take the land and the Sphinx, that's good. And we find a Scholar, which could get back a Hedron Archive. We kind of want to save that for getting back a Time Warp. So let's go Riddle Master. We'll return the Twilight Prophet, so they've not got a block for us. Don't need another land now. Guess we'll take these two. And yeah, there's a chance that we could win with like a Thassa's Oracle win. I think that's in the deck. Oh no, it's not. I took it out because it's less reliable now nowadays. Take these since Vizier can do stuff from the graveyard. That can go back to your hand. Let's play Island. Go for another 2-drop. Don't really need Dream Eater. Go Sphinx with Foresight. And then, yeah, I think just Epiphany is fine. Take that for the Mox Amber. There's an Omniscience there as well, which we can play. Let's go. Amber. Playing Omniscience. And GG. Okay, we're on the play against Yariok. Pretty strong commander. We do have some early ramp. I'll need to play the Mimic tapped, but then we can go turn 2 ramp into turn 3 ramp. Hope to pick up a land. Not the greatest, but I think this is the keep. Just really hope to draw a land. Okay, one dead draw. Getting the blue mana from Cold Steel Heart is pretty relevant later on. So both of them come in tabbed. And yeah, the only advantage of playing Idle would be the activation, but we know we're not activating because we've got more ramping to do still. Okay, so I can go Cold Steel Heart, which will be untapped, and then use that to play Guardian Idol. And that puts us at Unesh mana. So we'll see what happens now. Opponent goes for Springbloom Druid, so they get 2 basic lands off of that. They're playing Yariok next turn. Yarok, sorry. So we could keep up Disallow, but that doesn't really let us do anything in ours. Other than, I suppose we could activate the Guardian Idol. Or we could Vizier. It's in tab, doesn't it? We could Vizier copying their Druid. We can let them have the Yarok and then copy it with Vizier. That seems pretty spicy, so I'm kind of on that train. Okay, can't play any of those this turn. I'd imagine both piles will have lands in them, in which case we'll take the Sphinx of Foresight. They go for 2 lands and the 2 creatures. I'll go for the 2 creatures since we're pretty Sphinx light. So we've got a land to play this turn, but we don't have one next turn yet. So I think I'll go for the Kinseekers, even though they're the worst creature out of those. A lot of the deck isn't necessarily getting the high value creatures out until later. More about just making sure you can keep storming off. Okay, so they play their land and probably their commander. Nope, they're going for more ramp. Suppose I am representing Wash Away. Maybe. I suppose it makes sense to wait for Yarok to have some enter the battlefield to do like the same turn it comes down. So let's use our colourless mana. Get the Kinseekers out, I think. Yeah. Okay, commit would be nice. That's probably going in a different pile than the Sphinx, and I think I need to take the Sphinx. Especially since I've got Disallow. Oh wow, they don't give us anything other than the Sphinx. Yeah, I do really want the Sphinx. But they might have counterspell backup for when they play Yarok, so to stop our counterspell, but that's fine. So we got 6 mana, so I can play Sphinx and keep up Disallow, that seems fine. Let's start with the Sphinx. I like the Scry 2 after, because like scrying 2 when you're about to see 2 piles isn't as relevant as scrying 2 to make sure that your draw the next turn is something specific. So here we can take the Mimic, because that's going to be 2 mana, this is still going to be 3 mana with the Unesh discount, so this just seems like a better pile. And then both of these are good cards. What do I want to draw next turn? I think Counterspell. Yeah, and then Key to the Archive can come up after. So we'll play the land so we can keep up our Disallow, and we'll just discard a land at end of turn. Get in with Unesh. Pogler, yeah, that needs to be countered. And that's GG. Yeah, next turn would have been able to Time Warp on top of maybe a Vizier. So, yeah, that probably would have been GG either that turn or very soon after. Okay, so we're on the play. Jawari Disruption can come down as a land. Sanctuary's going to come in tapped. We do have Counterspell. Key to the Archive is good ramp. It's not a great hand, but not the worst. So I think I'll keep. So I think I'll start with the Sanctuary. There's not much of a chance we're going to get to the point where that comes in untapped, so now maybe we can hold up Disruption to have an extra counterspell as well as our actual counterspell. They just pass, that's fine. We do keep drawing the land, so I don't mind just playing out the island, I think. Goes for Lannery Storm. Yeah, that wouldn't be great for us. I think we Disruption that. Okay, so I think Key to the Archive is fine now. So we could get another counter spell, discard Vizier. I don't hate that, because they could have artifact removal, so I don't mind getting the blue spell. Now we're cheating with 2 copies of a card. Not allowed. So they could play their commander, they're certainly not triggering, I can't, I suppose if they like played that, made a treasure off of a card and then played another card, they could trigger it. Just gonna go for Pirate's Pillage for ramp. That would have been a nice one to counter since they still would have had to discard a card, but oh well. So it would be nice to have counterspell backup once we play Unesh, which we're not going to be able to do if we play him this turn. So I could see going Banner, that leaves us 4 mana. So yeah, maybe Banner and pass, probably counterspell one thing in their turn. Could have played Curator, but I think I prefer keeping up a counterspell for something like that. which would be able to get rid of Unesh if we let that stay on the battlefield. Okay, land is very nice. Usually I don't play land before I play Unesh, just in case I hit a higher value one that I want to play, but this time, if I play the land, that means I've got a counterspell backup already, so they can't, like, in response to the trigger, kill it with 4 damage. And they do seem to have some sort of response here. Don't think it would hold priority for just treasures. But imagine any effective response would use up at least 1 treasure, which would be nice. Okay, so we can either get an island. We've played a land this turn. I'm not very bothered about Solemn now, so I think Faceless Agent's just better. We won't play it this turn, we'll just keep up the counterspell. Okay, it goes for Ripley, so if they get a 3rd spell off, then Ripley can kill Unesh, so I think I counter that. Now they might have another kill spell for Unesh, but, you know, there we go. Won by infuriating them. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a 2-mana ramper, we've got the ley line, which is nice, so that'll come out and let us play stuff at flash speed. We're against Exodus / Awaken the Blood Avatar. So Awaken can make us sack stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure a hand gets too much better than this, so... So I think turn 1 Mimic, because we're gonna need all these lands. Cool. So we can just hold up the mana, feign having a counter spell. Nice thing about having flash. And a Doom Traveler, so this is looking a lot more like an Awaken the Blood Avatar deck that wants to sack all these creatures. So it costs 2 less for each creature they sacrifice. So they could play another 1-cost creature and actually play that next turn, so that's quite interesting. Okay, we'll play out our island and just pass. So if we're not feeling the pressure, I can go Obelisk. Don't really want to ambush either of these because it still leaves them with something to sacrifice to the Awaken the Blood Avatar. Obelisk would put us on Unesh the turn after. Okay, they go for the attack. I'll just take here. 3. Yeah, I was just thinking if I could Obelisk and then animate the idol, but I can't. We'll just take that. Cool, so we can just play our Obelisk then. Could cycle the Curator of Mysteries, but I think I want to keep it. Spinning Wheel's nice as well. So that gives us the option of we could Spinning Wheel into one of these 4-drops, or we can play Unesh, but pass to them and see what happens. Or rally the throne. So Awaken makes us sack a creature when they cast it and is a sorcery, so we can just play Unesh end of theirs and then they can't make us sack it. So I think this is fine to just let resolve. Not that we can do much anyway, but just thinking about how we're going to play around stuff. So we don't want to ambush these because then we lose our creature to the Awaken. They go for a Thallid. And now we can play Unesh. So we want to get out a few creatures to sack to the Awaken, which they might end up being able to play twice next turn, I would say. Considering these make more guys to sack. Yeah, I don't think Blast Zone does that much for us, so I think we just want the Master. Play the Island. Yeah, I think we can just hold everything and respond with our Sphinxes to sacrifice them, so that seems fine to me. Do I want to attack? Could hold off the Thallid, although I don't really want to risk blocking with Unesh, so I think I will attack. Five, 6, 7 mana currently. Okay, so they do go for the Awaken. So in response we want to play our creature, probably Master of the Winds to start off. I think I'll take the Mirror. There's maybe another creature to throw out there. Draw 2, discard. All could be important. Maybe I discard Mirror, because I might need the untapped land still. Now I've got 5 mana, but only 3 of those are blue. So I think what I'll do is go like that to get Spinning Wheel. Play a Curator. Yeah, I wouldn't mind the disallow, I think I'll take that. Okay, that's the extent of what we can do this turn, so I'll sacrifice the Master of Winds to start off with. They get that back, they can play it again. But it gets the command attacks, but obviously they can sack more creatures, which they do. So I'll sacrifice my Curator of Mysteries. So those are hitting hard. Down to 6. Okay, Key could be good. Not got anything to return in my yard, no. Do I start with Key? I think I do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's fine. Hoping for like a Time Warp, I think. There is a Time Warp. There's also a Day of Judgment, which I wouldn't be able to play this turn. So it's probably worth just Time Warping, I think. And then next turn we can get it back with Scholar. So I'm going to need the untapped land, so I think I just get rid of all of the Storm Giants there. Land, Time Warp. And we can attack in. So we're going to want to play Scholar, so yeah, we're... There you go. Oh, I hadn't even seen the Scholar.